In the heart of Greece, where the mountains kissed the clouds and courage was carved into stone, 10,000 Spartan warriors stood ready to face the greatest empire the world had ever seen. The Persian king, Xerxes, believed his elite guard, the Immortals, were invincible, blessed by gods and feared by all. But on that blood-soaked plain, shield met spear, discipline clashed with arrogance, and history witnessed what happens when human will defies impossible odds. This is the untold story of how 10,000 Spartans crushed the pride of Persia, the unstoppable Immortals, not at Thermopylae, but in a forgotten battle that changed the course of empires forever. Years after the 300 Spartans fell at Thermopylae, their legend became a symbol of resistance and vengeance. Sparta had not forgotten the humiliation nor forgiven the Persian fire that burned their lands. Across the Aegean, the Persian Empire rebuilt its pride, training an army of elite warriors, the Immortals chosen for their speed, discipline, and loyalty to Xerxes. But Persia's arrogance blinded them to the storm gathering in Greece. The sons of Leonidas had grown into men of iron, bred for war and bound by a promise to avenge the blood of Thermopylae. When word spread that Persia was advancing again through the Aegean islands, Sparta summoned its warriors. Not 300 this time, but 10,000 full-blooded Spartans and their helot squires, marching with the same red cloaks that once defied 1,000,000 Persians. Their leader was General Cleomenes, a man molded in Leonidas' shadow, disciplined, merciless, and brilliant. His plan was simple: draw the Immortals into a narrow coastal plain and crush them with Spartan formation tactics perfected over generations. The Persians landed with confidence, their bronze shields gleaming under the burning sun, banners fluttering with gold. The Immortals believed victory was destiny. The Spartans believed victory was earned. As the two forces stared across the plain, silence fell, a silence so heavy it felt like the gods themselves were holding their breath. The Persian Immortals were not ordinary soldiers. They were legends wrapped in silk and steel, chosen from birth, trained to perfection, and adorned with golden armor. They were taught that death was merely a transition, each fallen immortal replaced instantly to keep their number eternal. They carried short spears and curved swords, fighting with precision that once shredded entire armies. To them, the Greeks were barbarians, men with no refinement, only brute strength. But the Spartans were not barbarians. They were instruments of war, sculpted by pain and discipline. Cleomenes studied the Persian tactics from scouts who survived earlier encounters. He understood their rhythm, their formations, their pride, and he knew pride was their weakness. Spartans had no room for pride, only survival and victory. Every movement in the phalanx was a heartbeat in a single body, every man a link in an unbreakable chain. As the Immortals advanced in perfect formation, their golden ranks shimmering, Cleomenes ordered silence. Shields locked, spears lowered, eyes unflinching. The Spartans stood as one, unblinking before the storm. When the Persians shouted their war cries, the Spartans answered not with words, but with a single sound, the thunder of shields striking as one, echoing through the valley like the roar of a god. The first impact was thunderous. Persian spears shattered on Spartan shields. Spartan blades pierced through silk and gold. The Immortals, masters of fluid movement, found themselves trapped against an unyielding wall of iron. Every time they advanced, they were pushed back, their momentum broken by relentless discipline. The phalanx held firm, its rhythm unshaken, its power growing with every fallen Persian. Behind the Spartan front lines, squires replenished shields, replaced broken spears, and carried away the wounded in silence. Cleomenes moved among his men like a ghost, calm amid chaos. "Hold the line," he murmured, and the line held unmoving, unstoppable. The sun scorched the battlefield, turning the dust to gold and blood to mud. But still, the Spartans did not falter. By dusk, the immortals had lost their formation. Their golden ranks were broken, their rhythm lost. The Spartans advanced, step by step, like a tide of vengeance reclaiming what was stolen. When night fell, the plain was silent again silent, except for the cries of the dying and the whisper of Spartan banners fluttering above them. As the battle raged, Cleomenes' true strategy unfolded. While the immortals focused on the front, a second Spartan detachment moved through the hills to encircle them. It was a maneuver of impossible timing and precision, one that could only succeed with the discipline Sparta was famous for. When dawn broke, the Persians realized too late they were surrounded. The immortals tried to reform, but the terrain betrayed them. Their cavalry could not maneuver. Their archers had no range in the narrow valley. The Spartans tightened their circle, closing in with spears gleaming in the rising sun. Each step they took pushed the Persians closer to annihilation. Panic began to spread among the enemy ranks, a crack in the immortals' illusion of immortality. Cleomenes raised his sword, signaling the final push. For Leonidas, roared the Spartans, their voices shaking the mountains. The phalanx moved like a machine, crushing the Persian center in a storm of bronze and fury. The immortals broke formation, something they had never done before. The myth was crumbling, and the world was about to witness their end. The air stank of blood and fear. The ground was slick with the remains of fallen men. The immortals, once the terror of Asia, were now cornered prey. Yet even cornered, they fought with desperation, their blades flashing in the light of dawn. Cleomenes watched as his warriors cut through them with brutal precision, every thrust a lesson in Spartan mastery. The Spartans' strength came not from numbers or armor, but from unity. Each man trusted the one beside him with his life. No soldier broke rank, no shield fell out of line. As the Persians faltered, the Spartans closed ranks even tighter, moving like a living fortress. The sound of steel against steel became a rhythm, a deadly song that carried through the battlefield. By midday, the plain was a sea of silence. The once proud immortals lay scattered like broken statues, their golden armor tarnished with dirt and blood. The sun rose high above the carnage, bearing witness to the impossible, the death of the undefeated, crushed by mortal men who refused to kneel. When the smoke cleared and the last cries faded, the Persian commander Artabanes realized the unthinkable had occurred. His immortals were dying. These men were supposed to be eternal, a living symbol of Persian dominance. Yet here, surrounded by Spartan steel, their eternity ended in blood and disbelief. Artabanes ordered a retreat, but it was chaos. His once perfect army scattered into the hills, chased by the wrath of Sparta. The Spartans did not pursue with recklessness. Cleomenes knew exhaustion could turn victory into disaster. He called his men back, letting the Persians flee while the ground still trembled beneath their boots. The field was theirs, soaked with glory and vengeance. For the first time, the empire of Xerxes had tasted defeat at the hands of disciplined Greek courage. As the sun set, Cleomenes looked upon his warriors, their armor dented, their shields stained, but their eyes burned with quiet triumph. They had avenged Thermopylae, not through sacrifice alone, but through strategy, discipline, and unyielding will. The message was clear. Sparta had risen again. In the marble halls of Persepolis, the message arrived like a dagger through the heart. Xerxes listened in disbelief as his messengers recounted the impossible. The immortals crushed, their commanders slain, their golden ranks shattered by a mere 10,000 Spartans. The great king's fury was unmatched. He tore the royal seal from his throne and hurled it across the chamber, declaring vengeance upon Sparta. But behind his rage was fear. The Immortals were the foundation of Persian prestige. Their defeat would ignite rebellion across the empire. If mortals could slay the deathless, what else could fall? Advisors urged restraint, but Xerxes demanded retribution. He ordered the construction of a new army to erase Sparta from the map, no matter the cost. Yet Persia's strength was not infinite. The empire stretched too far, its people restless and weary of endless war. And in that weakness, Sparta saw opportunity. For Cleomenes knew that fear was more powerful than swords, and the Persians now feared men they once mocked. Victory did not bring celebration to Sparta. It brought silence, discipline, and remembrance. The dead were honored not with tears but with oaths. The survivors bathed in the river Eurotas, washing away the blood of Persia and the burden of their triumph. Cleomenes addressed his men not as heroes, but as guardians. "We do not fight for glory," he said. "We fight so Greece may stand free." The Spartan code demanded humility in victory. The elders of the Gerousia reminded Cleomenes that pride destroys nations faster than war. Every warrior knew that the Persians would return, perhaps not tomorrow, but someday. And when they did, Sparta must be ready once again. So while Persia grieved its losses, Sparta trained harder than ever. Children were told the story of the 10,000, not to glorify battle, but to teach duty and unity. The victory became a lesson carved into every shield and whispered in every barracks. That courage, discipline, and brotherhood could humble the mightiest of kings. In Persia, Artaban's defeat triggered a storm of reform. Xerxes replaced fallen generals with younger, hungrier men. He ordered new divisions trained not in arrogance, but in adaptation men who would study the Spartan phalanx, learn its rhythm, and find its weakness. For years, Persia prepared in silence, rebuilding strength under the guise of peace. Spies roamed the Aegean, gathering information about Greek city-states, their alliances, their rivalries. Persia knew that to defeat Sparta, it must first divide Greece. Gold became their new weapon. Bribes, promises, and diplomacy began to tear at the fragile unity that bound the Hellenic world together. Athens grew suspicious of Sparta's rising fame. Corinth sought Persian favor in secret. But while Persia schemed in the shadows, Sparta sharpened its blades in the light. Cleomenes saw through the deceit. "They will not attack our walls," he told his council. "They will attack our trust." His prophecy was correct. The next war would not begin with soldiers, but with betrayal. Years passed, and whispers of Persian agents filled the air. Athenian merchants vanished. Spartan envoys were poisoned in foreign courts. The seeds of mistrust bloomed across Greece. When Persian gold reached the Peloponnesian League, alliances fractured overnight. Athens accused Sparta of tyranny. Sparta accused Athens of treachery. The Persian plan was working. Cleomenes fought not only enemies abroad, but politics at home. The ephors doubted him, claiming he sought too much glory, too much control. But Cleomenes had no hunger for power, only foresight. He knew that divided, Greece would perish. "If we fall to each other," he warned, "Persia will not need to lift a sword." His words fell on deaf ears. Meanwhile, Persian ships gathered beyond the horizon once again. Larger, deadlier, and carrying a secret weapon, a new division forged from vengeance, the reborn Immortals. They were coming to reclaim their pride and wash away their shame in Greek blood. When scouts sighted the Persian sails at dawn, the alarm spread like wildfire through the Peloponnese. The Immortals had returned stronger, deadlier, and twice as numerous, but their hearts carried the ghosts of their fallen brothers. They sought not conquest, but redemption. This was not just another invasion. It was revenge written in iron. The Greek city-states scrambled for defense. Athens prepared its fleet, Corinth closed its gates, and Sparta simply assembled. Cleomenes marched his 10,000 once more, older now, but seasoned by experience. He did not underestimate the new immortals. "They have learned from us," he told his men. "Now we shall see if they have learned enough." As the two forces met on the plains of Plataea once again, history repeated itself, but with sharper edges, deadlier weapons, and the haunting knowledge that only one legend could survive the day. The morning sun burned over a sea of shields. The immortals advanced in eerie silence, their faces masked, their formation tighter than before. The Spartans responded in kind, forming their wall of shields, spears bristling like a field of thorns. Both sides waited for the other to move, the tension stretching until even the wind seemed afraid to breathe. Then, as if commanded by fate, both lines surged forward. The impact was like the earth cracking open. Metal screamed against metal. The immortals had changed their tactics. They no longer fought with flashy movements, but with calculated brutality, matching Spartan discipline with equal resolve. For the first time, the phalanx wavered. Cleomenes saw the danger and roared above the chaos, rallying his men. "They may have learned our strength," he cried, "but they will never know our soul." With renewed fury, the Spartans slammed forward, their shields crushing through the Persian line. What followed was not battle, but annihilation. Among the new immortals fought Ardashir, son of Artabanes, the commander slain years ago. He had sworn to kill Cleomenes and end the Spartan curse upon his bloodline. His skill was unmatched, his armor adorned with the black sigil of vengeance. When he met Cleomenes on the field, the clash was more than personal. It was destiny's reckoning. They fought amid the storm of war, surrounded by death and thunder. Ardashir's blade moved like lightning, but Cleomenes was the mountain that stood unshaken. Sparks flew as their weapons met again and again. Then, in a moment of clarity, Cleomenes disarmed him with a blow that shattered his spear and spirit. "Your father was a warrior," he said. "You are his shadow." And with one final strike, Ardashir fell. The immortals saw their leader's body collapse and their courage withered. For the second time in history, they broke. The name Immortal died that day, not with a whisper, but with a scream that echoed across centuries. News of the defeat reached Persia like an omen. The empire trembled, its aura of invincibility shattered. Xerxes, now old and haunted, refused to believe the truth. "No mortal can defeat the immortals twice," he muttered, his voice cracking under the weight of disbelief. But truth does not yield to kings. The empire's subjects saw weakness, and rebellion followed. In Egypt, in Babylon, in the far reaches of the east, uprisings flared like wildfire. Persia's dominance began to crumble, undone not by foreign armies but by the memory of Spartan steel. The immortals had been their symbol of order, their divine right to rule. Without them, the empire was just another kingdom fading into history. Back in Greece, Cleomenes returned home not as a conqueror, but as a guardian. His victory was quiet, his reward a humble offering to the gods. He had destroyed an empire's pride without losing his humanity, a rarity in a world of endless war. Generations passed, but the tale of the 10,000 Spartans endured. It became more than history. It became identity. Children grew up hearing of the day when mortal men humbled an empire, of how discipline triumphed over arrogance. Their names were carved into stone, not for glory, but to remind the world what courage truly means. Historians would argue whether the numbers were real, whether 10,000 truly stood against Persia's best. But numbers never mattered to the Spartans. What mattered was the spirit, the unbreakable unity that transformed men into legends. Every soldier who lifted a shield in their name carried a spark of that immortal defiance. The Persians called their warriors immortals, but history remembers otherwise. The true immortals were not those who lived forever, but those who could never be forgotten. The 10,000 Spartans did not just crush an army. They crushed the illusion that any empire, no matter how vast, could conquer the will of free men. And so ends the forgotten chapter of Spartan glory, a tale buried beneath the sands of time, where 10,000 warriors proved that discipline and courage are stronger than gold and gods. The Persian immortals may have believed themselves eternal, but it was the hearts of mortal Spartans that stood the test of eternity. Their story reminds us that power fades, empires fall, and even the mightiest can be humbled by those who fight for something greater than themselves. The clash between Sparta and Persia was more than war. It was the moment humanity learned that true immortality is not found in bloodlines or titles, but in legacy. For as long as courage exists, as long as one person stands against tyranny, the echo of those 10,000 Spartans will never die,